Today I'm joined by Master Phil Ross. Phil is a ninth degree black belt. He holds multiple black belts actually. Is a kickboxing and grappling champion, strength coach, author of several books. He's a college professor, kettlebell expert, which is going to be the topic of our discussion today. And he's trained everyone from corporate executives to the special forces. And he was also featured on one of my all-time favorite TV shows, Forged in Fire. Phil Ross, welcome.
Hey, Joe, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It was great meeting you out at the AAAI. I know we had conversed prior to that, but it was great to get to know you and the rest of the crew and to work with you. I had an incredible time and picked up some good knowledge and presented some as well. So it was a win-win.
Yeah, definitely. You had a great class. I peeked in some of your classes. One of the reasons I wanted to do this today is because when we first met, you were joined at the hip by hundreds of pounds of kettlebells. And I think I even said to you, I said, you're not driving a Honda Civic and you're driving all these things in Atlantic City. You're like, oh no, I got a giant truck.
Hey, have kettlebells will travel.
Yes. And you got me thinking, because this is not something, kettlebells are not in my wheelhouse. So I wanted to approach this as somebody who doesn't have a lot of experience with kettlebells in hopes that it might help other people who are interested in kettlebell training but don't know where to start. So my first question for you, Phil, is are there different types of kettlebells?
Heck yes. And here's one of my kind of little pet peeve. Are they expensive? Yeah, sure. The one thing is that, once you have the particular bells that I like the best, you have them for life. Like I have most of my kettlebells for 20 years plus. So there are different kinds. One of the problems is that most of the kettlebells, the Me Too's I call them, are made by fitness equipment manufacturers, people who made other things who want to do kettlebells. But they're not made by people who actually use kettlebells. Whereas I love the Dragon Door kettlebells. If people want to get them, they can get them from my site. They're the ones that were brought through the RKC, Russian Kettlebell Certification Challenge. Right? So I happen to be a master in that particular organization. But these bells are fantastically crafted, and you can even see them when you compare them to other bells. First of all, the handle feels very, very good. The finish is good. And a lot of the other ones, the finish is rough and they chip and they're not balanced properly. Whereas you look at them, because I have a couple even, I know I'm going to trash Rogue, I don't care. But I have a couple from Rogue just because I didn't have I couldn't get the proper size that I needed. Like I have the largest one that RKC, the Dragon Door bell, is the 132 pound kettlebell, but I wanted a bigger one, so I have a 150 pounder from Rogue, and then I also have a 125 pound, and then I have, of course, the 106 pound one from Dragon Door, which is the Beast. We call it the Beast, and you can see the difference. The coating is different. The way they feel is different. They even sit on my shelf different. The other ones are not even planed properly on the bottom. They're just not crafted as well. So they were made by equipment manufacturers, not people who use kettlebells and know how they should feel in your hand, know the balance involved, know how long that coating is going to last. Because my coatings last forever.
And that you bring up a good point. So the handle makes makes a big difference. I would imagine so. You probably want one, I would imagine, with a thicker handle. Felt better in your hand?
Well, yes and no. Okay. We do have some with a slightly smaller handle for women. Okay. Just like you would have a basketball for women is smaller than the basketball for men. So some of them have a little smaller handle, which is okay. Like we have the 16 kg, which is about 35 pounds. That one has an option where it's a thinner handle.
And the base of the kettlebell, I have noticed this. Some seem to have a wider base than others, and the smaller base, they don't seem to stack so well in the gym. I'm guessing that's something someone would want to look.
Yeah, you want to make sure that the base is nice and flat, and that it's machined properly. Like some of these other ones, they wobble. So whereas the craftsmanship and the machinery done on the Dragon Door bell is superior.
Is there a difference between the ones that I saw you with in Atlantic City and the plastic coated ones that I have seen in the gym?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Many times, the craftsmanship of it is not great. The other thing is that when they have that rubber coating, I guess the philosophy is there in case you drop them. But you know what? Don't drop your bell. And the other thing is that you should work out on a surface that's rubber coated anyway. So it's not going to damage it. I just put different color tape on my handle so I know what denomination they are.
That's actually a really good idea.
And so I was doing, it was funny because I used to teach a lot of kettlebell class when I had my facility. And, I'd have all the kettlebells up on the shelf. And remember, I'm at the beginning of the real kettlebell phenomenon. Within the first few years it came into the country, I started getting into it. As far as I know, I was the first one to put tape on it. So I was hosting a seminar probably about 15 years ago or so. And so we said, oh, wow, can I do that too? I'm like, yeah, just get electrical tape, different colors. Because I thought I had like a patent on or something. No, I just went to the hardware store, got some electrical tape and put the different colors on to indicate the different way. Because it was a lot easier to say, get the red one over there. Because I said, get a 24 kg or get a 12 kg. People look at me like I have 3 heads. So I would just say, oh yeah, get the red one top shelf. Get the blue one lower shelf. It made it a lot easier.
That's actually genius. That would have never occurred to me. Have any companies actually tried to duplicate that and mass produce it?
I'm sure they do. I'm sure that they come out with some, stripes. I've seen some stripes on different ones, but a lot of times what they do is they have these other bells. I call them the balloon bells, where they're different color bells, different weights, but they're all the same size. Someone has there's different types of there's actually different types of kettlebell lifting as well. So there's the sport, the Grievix. They do the Gita Sport, which is there's 2 moves in there. They do snatches and jerk press, and they do it for time and reps, and you get a master of sport in that. I've trained people who've won championships in there. I don't particularly like it myself. I'm more of the hardstyle training because I think that translates to sport and life a lot better than some of the other modalities. There's also like the On It has a system, and it's a little flowy for me because you're not taking advantage of the bell itself, like the benefits of the bell, the lock, the pop. You're taking advantage of the offset center of gravity. That's why I like the hardstyle better, because in the hardstyle, you're basically hitting all 3 types of muscular fitness. If you look at the components of muscular fitness, you have strength, which is like absolute strength, right? You have explosive power, and then you have muscular endurance, okay? You can get all those with the hardstyle training. And then, of course, not to mention mobility and flexibility. Obviously, when you're doing like these HIIT workouts or you're doing a VO2 max, you're getting your cardiovascular conditioning. And then, obviously, the thermogenetic burn that you get, and you're just going to keep burning fat. So you're also addressing your body composition. And actually, there's also the neuromuscular component. When you're doing a lot of these balance exercises with a kettlebell, you have to be engaged mentally, so you got that mind-body.
You brought up a good point a second ago. VO2 max, and I don't know the answer to this. Has anybody looked at whether kettlebell training improves VO2 max in people?
Yes. Yeah, it does. And we have actually a methodology. So what we do is, I have a protocol for that. And actually, I have them up on my YouTube channel. But what you want to do is you take a timer, put it on 15 seconds. So take your pulse, right? See where you're at, see your heart rate is, right? And then you go 15 seconds one side, 15 seconds the other side, 15 seconds active rest, and you repeat that cycle. You say, well, how much should I do? Well, you know what? You want to use the correct size kettlebell. I'll give you an example. When I'm doing my snatches, like a snatch test for level 2 certification in my system, you have to do 100 snatches with a particular weight. So for my weight, I have to do 100 snatches in 5 minutes with a 24 kg or 53 pound kettlebell. But now for the VO2 max, only uses 16 kg. And you want to be able to do around 8 repetitions. If you're doing less than 7 or more than 10, the weight is incorrect. So I want 15 seconds. I average 8 reps. 15 one side, 15 other side, 15 seconds each side, 8 reps each side. Shake it loose, start over. When you start this out, I would only recommend doing it 4 cycles. But you can get up to 20 cycles. And let me tell you, you're getting hundreds of reps. And you're up there. That heart rate is going. Your VO2 max is off the charts.
Has that been validated in any clinical?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they've done it. Yeah, Dr. Kenneth J, years ago. I mean, it's like 20 years ago I got introduced to this thing. And they had done some testing on it. He's a doctor of physiology.
Okay.
Sweden? Yeah.
Interesting. Going back to kettlebells, I always remember my very first weight set, yours probably was too, they were made of sand. Are there any kettlebells that have sand in them? Because that was a pain in the butt when the sand started leaking out of the weight plate.
They've come and gone. People have done water bells where you take the kettlebell, you fill a bag with water, take it with you. People have the adjustable bells. I'm not a big fan of those, especially, you're swinging that thing around. Who knows where it's going to go? You have to remember a kettlebell, there's movements which are ballistic, right? You have 3 different types of moves. You have mobility, You have grinds, which are your presses, your squats, your rows. And then you have your ballistics, which are your swings, your snatches, your high pulls, things like that. So ballistic, what is ballistic? That's like shooting, right? That's explosive, okay? So imagine you're smashing this thing around and it's held together by a little pin. If I'm going to be very secure with that.
Along the same lines, I have seen devices sold online that'll turn any dumbbell into a kettlebell. Okay. You just wrap it around a dumbbell and it's got a handle on it. Have you ever had experience with those things?
So, yeah. And here's the thing. See, is it getting the same? Are you getting the same benefit? No. Okay. Are you getting some benefit? Yes. Okay, so you have to understand that a barbell and a dumbbell have a unilateral distribution of weight. That means it's even on both sides, right? So when you have a kettlebell, though, the center of gravity is offset because you have the cannonball here and the handle here. So when I'm moving through space, my body has to recruit all these different stabilizers in order to perform the movement safely. Whereas you still have that even distribution of weight with a dumbbell, whether it has a handle on it or not. So it's kind of like a little gimmicky. And again, think about that. If you're snatching a 50-pound dumbbell with a handle on it, are you going to trust that thing?
That's the first thing I thought of.
Only takes once. And believe me, listen, very few times have I ever had a kettlebell flying at me, only twice in training. And you know what? I never stand in front of someone when they're doing a ballistic exercise, always to the side. It happened not this summer before. One of my longtime students, I just lost it. Snatch went flying across the room. I'm like, all right. That's why I don't stand in front.
Which leads me into the next question. It was a perfect handoff. What do you think personal trainers are getting wrong about kettlebell training, and how can they fix that? Besides, don't stand in front of the person with the big heavy object that's swinging it.
One of the problems is I see a lot of people doing form incorrectly. Their alignment isn't proper. They think they know what they're doing. I will tell you this. One thing, I know what I don't know, and I know what I know. And I know that when I first grabbed the kettlebell, and I'm like, wow, I don't know what I'm doing. And remember, I was a very experienced weightlifter. I was an elite level powerlifter. I had won powerlifting meets professional. I won bodybuilding meets and Olympic lifting. And yet, I'm like, wow. And I was a Division I athlete. And I'm like, wow, I got to learn how to do this right. So I went and I found the guy who brought it here, Pavel Tatsaline, and I became certified under him. But people they look at a YouTube video and they think they know what they're doing. And I see this new phenomenon. I actually posted something on my YouTube channel, hey, clean up your clean. There's something I'm seeing, like people are doing the cleans. And I know you don't know too much about it, but they're basically banging their arms. They're keeping their thumbs up, okay? So if I have my thumbs up and I'm swinging between my legs, okay, that's putting a lot of undue stress on the elbow. I turn my hand, right? So I'm not stressing the elbow. Look, I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, okay? You do this, you're submitting someone. You're doing an arm bar on them. Why am I going to arm bar myself 100 times in a workout? So that's going to eventually wear down on the elbow joint. I posted I said, listen, is there something I don't know here? I took a humble approach. I look, if you're doing this for a reason, please tell me. No one has answered it yet. No one's told me a good reason for swinging or cleaning your kettlebell with the elbows so they hit into your thigh. Yeah, I know, right? Just look at it. It hurts.
I'm going to look at people doing that very differently in the gym now, because that didn't even occur to me, but you're right. That would not be really good on your elbow joint.
And the other thing is it's harder to get a good backswing like that as well. You're mostly using a lot of upper body. And you have to understand, if you're not getting a good backswing, on the ballistics, the backswing is the most important part. That's going to access that posterior chain. And in this country, we are so focused on the front end, we don't think about the posterior chain. But where does all of our strength come? Boom. And everyone's got bad back, everyone's got bad shoulders, everyone's got bad hips, bad knees, blah, 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 and they wonder why. Not paying attention to that posterior chain.
So along those same lines, if say there is a personal trainer who is getting into kettlebells and they've got clients, how do they progress people safely without further injuring them or causing an injury?
First of all, know what you're doing. Know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Take your kettlebell training seriously. Don't just look at it like some kind of an ancillary type. Oh, I learned my swings, and I see them do swings, and they're not doing swings right. Not only are they opening their clients up to injury, but they are also doing a disservice to the strength attributes that you can get from a kettlebell training, from a training. So, look, if you see somebody allowing someone to kettlebell train with big, thick shoes on, just run for the door. They don't know what they're doing. You want to take advantage of the proprioception. You want to root with the floor. You have to have a very thin sole. Or I work out barefoot most of the time. I'm rooted with the ground. I'm taking advantage of proprioception. I know where my body is in space. So you don't want to have the big fluffy shoes on. Okay, you can't root with the floor. And the other thing is, if you have a grade, and when you're doing swings, what kind of pressure is that putting on your knee? A lot of people don't take advantage of the eccentric and concentric. So what do I mean by that? On the extension, pop and lock and then smash it down. I'm working both ends of this, taking advantage of the tool. Get intimate with this kettlebell. Get intimate with it. I've had such incredible success with my clients. Again, I train everybody from special forces to, people in their 70s and even 80s. I got this one guy, 74 years old, started training with me a year ago, 160 something pounds, swinging a 53-pound kettlebell for sets of 10 and doing Turkish get-ups weighted, 74 years old. He's put on 7 pounds of muscle in this year. 74, come on. Most people in their 70s can't even get up without help.
Yeah.
And then I got the guy told you I'm training this one guy, getting him ready for going to Olympic trials. He's preparing. He's a world medal winner.
Wow.
Several-time national champ.
That's phenomenal. Are there different exercises for, say, hypertrophy, mobility, performance, or does hypertrophy just go along for the ride and it just gets better as you get better?
You will experience muscle hypertrophy, but the big strength from kettlebells occurs on a neural level because of your alignment and you're using the structure. Look, if I took two people and I said, all right, here you're going to do a bodybuilding workout for 6 months, you're going to do a kettlebell workout for 6 months. The person who do the bodybuilding protocol will become more muscular looking. They will get bigger. Okay, the kettlebell person will be stronger and will have a better connection. So, because everything's going through the core. But is there? Yeah, there's we have a protocol called kettlebell muscle where you're doing a thing that we call you have complexes and chains. Okay, and you keep the reps low. So you keep the reps low. You do 5 reps, do 6 reps. Stay in that rep range. And when I'm talking about a complex and a chain, what you do is you take 3 or more exercises and you put them together. So here's what I mean. I would do 5 swings, 5 front squats, 5 presses, put it down. That's a compound. 5 of each, then move to the next exercise. A chain would be, I do a clean, a high pull, a snatch, 1 rep of each, and then do that for the multiple reps. So a chain is more muscular endurance, complex is more strength.
Okay, definitely makes sense. What about injury prevention? Have kettlebells been shown, say, for instance, to reduce the risk of low back injuries, which a lot of people obviously have these days?
So glad you brought that up. My method is called the Barbell method. Okay, it's born from not only my time with the RKC and the methodology and hardstyle kettlebell training, but also the bodyweight training I've done and all the flexibility and mobility work that I've done over my life. And my program is recognized by the state of New Jersey for continuing education credits for doctors of physical therapy because of the therapeutic value of these movements that we're doing. It's kettlebell, bodyweight, dynamic tension, strength through motion. In addition to that, I just got approved by the Institute for Continuing Education for chiropractors as well as DPTs. So I'm running courses there for them as well. It is very therapeutic. You just think about it when you're doing, let's say, for example, a move called the arm bar. On the arm bar, you press the kettlebell, your wrist is straight, elbows locked, shoulder packed. So right there, we're working on our alignment. We roll over, the bell is up, we rotate around the bell. Now, so what I've been doing, I'm opening up my hips, extending the lumbar spine, okay? Pulling it all back through my core again. So it's got properties of stabilization for the shoulder and mobility of the thoracic region and the hip, all in one movement. So these are very restorative type movements and also preparatory for when you're doing your training, and it gets you ready. I always do the arm bars when I'm going heavy overhead presses, or if I'm doing my windmills or something like that, I want to prep myself properly. So I'll do these arm bars. So, and then of course, if you look at a swing, I don't know the physiological reason this happens, but if I have low back pain, I do dead start swings. And it's not just me. I can't tell you how many people have come into me and say, my back was bothering me. I did 3 sets of 10 with a dead start swing and now I feel fine. It's crazy. It just resets you. It's got to be the hip extension, the packing of the shoulder, engaging on the lat. Here's something else. If people can want to try this out, it's kind of cool. I'm all about the rhomboids. If you see the Barbell Method shirts, I have on neutral spine all the time, tighten the butt, tighten the gut, pack the shoulders, engage the lats, and squeeze the rhomboids. So if you squeeze your rhomboids, if you're standing up and you squeeze your rhomboids and you bend over, you have to think about bending your low back. Naturally, you want to keep your back straight. You'll maintain that neutral spine. So we want to focus on those rhomboids, and a lot of these movements focus on engaging the rhomboids, which will help us keep that neutral spine and engage all the support muscles of the spine. Your rectus spinae, your multifidi, and so forth.
Interesting. For that person who's watching us and is getting all inspired, hey, I want to start doing this kettlebell training, before they run out to, say, the local sporting goods store and start buying some kettlebells, are there any groups of people that should maybe go to their doctor first and get checked out? First thing I thought of was arthritis when I thought about this.
Yeah. The thing is that whenever you're starting any new type of exercise program, I would always check with my physician, depending upon your age, especially if you have anything wrong with you. Right. It's just a word of caution. I would always do that. But it depends on the type of arthritis. I mean, once you're over a certain age, you have arthritis. What are you gonna do about it? It depends on the type of arthritis you have. How far is it advanced? But I will tell you this will help you to, counterbalance the effects of arthritis, because there's a lot of mobility involved in here. A lot of mobility, getting blood to the joint, improve the circulation, so forth. But, the other things also, if you are overweight, if you're very overweight, you want to make sure that you go see a physician. And, it depends, are you going to go train with an expert? And research the person first. Just don't, I see, look, there's a lot of really good looking young people on Instagram swinging kettlebells. They probably have a lot more followers than I do, but how's their form?
My horror story that I talk about in personal training certifications, I usually show pictures of crazy things going wrong in classes I teach. I saw a video, and I don't know where it was, YouTube, Instagram, of one of these young girls doing kettlebell swings on a terrace outside of her condo. And the terrace was smaller than my little office here. And the first thing I thought of was, what do you do if you lose your grip? It's going over the railing.
Kill somebody.
Oh my God. I mean, literally, my jaw dropped to the floor when I saw her doing this. So yeah, investigate whose videos you're watching.
The things with the kettlebell, any of the ballistics, know your target and beyond.
Yeah.
Know what's in front of you, okay? Because that thing's gonna fly. You got inertia going. That bad boy's going. You want to make sure you have kettlebell safety. Another thing I tell people too, as far as kettlebell safety goes, is don't try to save a rep. Step backward and drop the bell. Fail backwards. That being kept in mind, never put a kettlebell behind you. Always have your kettlebells in front, so when I fail backwards, I don't have to worry about it. Look, if I have a kettlebell behind me, I fail backwards, trip over the bell, and bang my head on the ground. Not such a good thing, right? So don't try to save a rep. Fail backwards, no bells behind you, know your target and beyond. Don't use something that's too heavy. Gradually build. You can always go up in weight. Another cool thing too, let's say you have limited bells, because I'll tell you, during COVID, what I did with my classes, I gave everyone a medium-sized bell and a large, medium and large. And then it was the weirdest thing, Joe. I got stronger doing body weight and 2 kettlebells. And listen, that wasn't my biggest bell. I only used a 16 kg and a 28 kg. I mean, they're decent, but I swing 150-pound kettlebells. But I got stronger. How the heck did I get stronger? Focusing on movement. Because the thing is, when you have, if you have a kettlebell and it's too light and you want to make it harder, for the grinds, you go slower. For the ballistics, you go faster. And if I only had those 2 tools, that's all I had. And body weight. And that's it. And actually, so, do you need a room full of kettlebells? No. I mean, honestly, if you have 4 kettlebells, it's going to last you the rest of your life. It's a minimalist system. There's very little that you need. You need kettlebells, a jump rope, a dowel, and you're off to the races. I mean, if you want to have one of those dip pull-up stations, that's great too. But, you don't need that much. You just need the knowledge. And, that's what I'm here for.
And I follow you on Instagram and also YouTube. You're doing some great stuff, so I would encourage people to follow you. Are there any resources for personal trainers who want to learn more about kettlebell training that you would recommend?
Well, look, there's a couple different organizations. The RKC is great. Of course, I like mine. I think mine's very, very comprehensive. And it's the cool thing about the Barbell method is that I have broken down to 1 day certifications. So it's not a multiple day, not a whole weekend. It's 1 day, level 1, level 2, level 3. And the cool thing is that I've done is you've done many certifications, I'm sure. And then you go to the learning, learn all kinds of great stuff, and you go home like, oh, what did I learn? I wrote this down. What do I mean by this note? So what I've done is I went through my whole system. Every movement that is taught is videotaped. So let's say Joe decides he's joining. Well, I want to take a kettlebell certification. I want to join. I pay my money. Boom. You get access the next day. And as long as you are a registered member, you get it the whole rest of the time. And it's a 3-year certification. And you have access 24-hour to every single move you learned in the cert. It's right there, right in front. So you can go back 6 months later. Oh gosh, what was that move? Because it's hard to remember all that stuff, especially terminology too. But everything's listed, and everything is at your fingertips.
And that sounds very smart because you are doing movement patterns which you really can't get from a book very well if you're on your own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
And
you have the written and the video, so you have both. Go to my YouTube channel. I have a lot of good free info there to get you going. I have a Patreon channel too, a bunch of workouts on that. You can get everything from my website. Go to philross.com or bodybellmethod.com. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. I don't know, name it. I'm on it. TikTok, Flip Flop, Nip Nop. Just throwing stuff out there. But the things and I engage with people. I love this stuff, and I just want to keep spreading the word because it's helped so many people. I've trained thousands and thousands of people at this point.
wow.
Through the seminars, shops, online, one-on-ones, group, and I've been able to help a lot of people with it. And I believe I can help anyone. I think that everyone can benefit from working in some type of kettlebell training. Look, even if you are into something else, like you love free weights or you love bodybuilding, you love powerlifting, you can still get something from this. It'll still enhance your other movements.
Sure, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you're stabilizing movements in ways you would not do even with dumbbells, which I think dumbbells are even better than barbells, but you're not swinging them around like you are with a kettlebell.
Yeah, I love dumbbells. I think they're great. And look, I love barbells too, but the thing is that when you get to a certain age, right, do you really need to load your back up with with the squat? And I'll tell you, it's funny because my son was the Division I thrower in college, and he's one of the top rated throwers in the country, shot put and disc, particularly shot. And when I was handling his recruiting, and the coach was like, well, what are his numbers? I go, what? Shot and disc? No, bench, deadlift, and squat. I'm like, I don't know, he doesn't do it. But I'll tell you what, kid was 215 pounds. He could strict press, the 106-pound kettlebell, either arm, and butt to heel, pistol squat, either leg, with a 106-pound kettlebell.
Wow.
At 16.
That's impressive.
And he was beating guys that were like 350 pounds, and he was 215.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for some sports, I think they put too much emphasis on squats and deadlifts and things like that.
Yeah. There's a diminishing return at a
Right.
certain point. Look, if you are squatting, right, and I can squat 400 pounds, my 100 time is faster. Okay, but maybe if you're up to 500 pounds, it actually makes it slower because maybe the muscle got too big. Everyone has what I call like their fighting weight. Like if someone is 230 and 5'7", I don't know if they're going to move too well. Is that the best weight you should be at? You have to find what your fighting weight is.
It's a really good point. And hopefully more strength coaches will think about that moving forward with whatever their sport they're training, like for instance, football.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think one of the reasons I really like the kettlebell, particularly for pressing, especially in comparison to a bar, because if you're pressing a bar, right, and you have the kettlebell, you have the barbell on your chest. Now, I have to get it past my head, don't I? So I either have to lean back, right, or push the barbell forward, correct? I'm not gonna go through my head. Now with a kettlebell, I come here and I bring my arms out. I'm accessing my back. Look, I have I put something on my YouTube channel. You probably get my sense of humor a little bit. I'm a little bit of wise guy, Jersey wise guy. I got your bench is BS, your squat sucks, your row is ridiculous, your deadlift is dumb, and your press doesn't impress me. So what I do is I go through, and listen, truth be told, I do like a lot of barbell exercises, but there's some that you really don't need to be doing. And you know what? You can do something better with kettlebells. So, when you're pressing, you ever do handstands? Well, I do them. I pop handstands all the time. I try to get inverted every day, do like one a day, like vitamins. When you do a handstand, right, you have everything in alignment. Your arm is in line with your ear, in line with your hip, in line with your heel, so forth, correct? Well, that's where I want to be. I want to be supporting the weight with my structure. If I'm doing a press and my arm is out front, I'm just doing it with my muscle. I'm going to cause an impingement here. So I want to take it into my back. We know so many people who have hurt shoulders. How many people hurt their lats, right? So load the lat. The lat's the biggest muscle in your upper body. Use it. Bang! Get that thing involved in your press. Take it away from the shoulder, all those little muscles in your shoulder, right? Go load up that big lat and your rhomboids, and you want to work them as opposed to your shoulders.
That's a good point. Master Phil Ross, this has been a great conversation. Really appreciate your time. How can people find you?
I'm easy. PhilRoss.com. bodybellmethod.com, Facebook, Master Phil, you Google me, whatever. You can send a smoke signal, carrier pigeon, however you want to get me. Just get me, reach out. I love conversing with people. I love helping people out.
And I'm going to link to all that.
Great. Thank
cool.
you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Hey, Joe, my pleasure.